We're back, and thanks for joining us on this webcast, this online meeting. Again, we welcome your questions. All you have to do is click the button that says Ask a Question, type it in, send it along, and we'll be sure and share it with our guests. Helen Torres, the Executive Director and CEO of HOPE, is able to stay with us a little while longer and talk about some of the things that are going on in California on the political front. Helen, you know, your group helps people decide to run for office, helps support participating in helping others run for office. The census says basically that 51% of the population is women. In congressional and legislative seats, 17%. On the Senate, just under. And in state legislatures, it's around 25. Why is there a discrepancy between women and their representation in the political process?
You know, that's a fantastic question. It's a question that we ask all the time since, as you mentioned, HOPE does a lot of training around civic involvement and ensuring that Latinas and women overall are being prepared to be involved in the political process. We know we steer away from endorsements and, you know, and whatnot from that, but one of the key trends that we've noticed, you know, the first Latina that ever served in California State Assembly, Gloria Molina, was back in like the late 1980s.
Wow.
So we started with one then, and then close to 2004, we saw a peak at 12 representatives, which, you know, it's pretty good when you're talking about 120, you know, legislators out here. But then now we're back down to just 3 Latinas in the state assembly and Senate combined. So we're concerned. Why is there a downward trend when all the indicators is Latina voting is higher than it was back in 2004? There's a larger population. So there's a couple things here that I think we really need to look at and systematically really understand what's happening with our institutions. I always think that, you know, at the end of the day is what is our two-party system doing to ensure that women and Latinas are in the pipeline to run and how they're being supported. So I call out both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and say, what are they doing to ensure that Latinas are being supportive and women overall? Because I think there's a lot that they can be doing. Secondly, I think there's a great opportunity for Latinas to always see themselves in that position of leadership. And they have to also step up to the plate and take advantage of these opportunities that are being presented to them.
We've had interviews before with folks who have run, and they've indicated, number one, it was very tough to get money, tough to access money. It was tough to access networks, you know, frankly, good old boy networks. Tough to get that. And there's also a question of people being willing to encourage them. That some of the people that said, well, you know, this is not the place for you, which you'd think, you know, 21st century that would not be the case. But how can women and Latinas go about organizing better to have that network of support?
Well, I think that one, they have to get involved at a different level. I think you often see Latina leaders and the behind the scenes ensuring that they're supporting others to take the step forward. They have to, you know, step up and take that step forward and really be seen as the leader that they are. So we see the great potential out there. Secondly, you know, we do have a very strong pipeline here in California. I know through our HOPE Leadership Institute, you know, 3 of the graduates have already been already mayors of their own cities.
Oh, wow.
So we're seeing some great progress there. And we see about 20% of our women running for office. So there's great potential out there. There's women being involved in the pipeline. So I think there's a great story yet to be told. Secondly, I think it's really important that women and Latinas in particular get used to and get comfortable with asking for money, especially in the era of term limits. There's no ifs, ands about it. Fundraising is king or queen, however you want to see it. And if you don't feel comfortable enough, if you don't believe in yourself enough to ask for money, you really have to rethink if perhaps political office is for you. It's unfortunate. Perhaps it shouldn't be that way. But I believe that's a barrier that women can overcome. It's a true barrier, but I think, you know, with training and getting out there and with practice, that's a barrier. We've seen it because we've seen some women run very successfully for office.
Now, you talk about the pipeline. We have a question from Calexico, California, and asking, are there efforts to reach high school students and college students and get them in this pipeline, in this path, either to run or support? And also, how can you get information to Imperial County about this?
Great.
So,
two questions. One is, I'll talk a little bit about Hope's efforts and other efforts that I know about. So Hope has a youth program that targets Latinas in their junior year of high school. And these are fantastic young women that are truly on a pathway to go on to college. And so what we do is they're up here right now with us in Sacramento. And so we infuse them with leadership training so at a younger age that they really see themselves as the leaders providing the answers and the solutions that we need in the community. So Hope does have a leadership program for younger Latinas and to ensure that that pipeline is strong and continual. The other thing is there's great organizations like Grows Inc. And then I always press upon Latinas and Latinos out there to get involved with their school system as parents and ensure that the schools are strong with their political science, their civics classes, and are engaging the students in our political process from the start. Because I think that's a great place to start, and it's an obligation of our educational system.
Oh, and it's so important for people. I mean, it's hard to ask somebody to get involved in it if they don't understand it. The three branches or what's going on in the state or local. You're right. It's very important that people have a comfort level with it before they are going to say that, yeah, I'd like to get involved. So, we talked earlier about how people can get in touch with your organization. We have a question from Anaheim asking if Hope can come and present to organizations. They have a large women audience and lots of teachers and Dream Team members. How can they go about getting some outreach from Hope?
Well, one of the best ways to contact is through our website, www.latinas.org, or to email me directly at htorres@latinas.org. We do presentations across the state around civic engagement and the political process. If it's not myself, as I mentioned before, through our Hope Leadership Institute, we're fast approaching 400 women that have gone through our Hope Leadership Institute, and they're truly our ambassadors and representatives.
They're a dynamic group.
They're fantastic women.
Yeah.
So the Hope team is very small. We're a very transparent and a force to be reckoned nonprofit in the sense that, but we do have a small team. So we really rely on our volunteers and the fantastic support of our Hope Leadership Institute to get the word out.
Okay, so people can access that on the website, email you directly, and we'll ask you to say that again before you go. You mentioned voter registration. Latino voter registration is just about half of the general population. There's always been this discussion if each person asked one other person to register, that inequity and discrepancy would be gone. What can Hope do and what can other people do to encourage people to register to vote? Because the population can be there, but you need folks in California participating at the ballot box.
Absolutely, and the potential is tremendous. Right now we're tracking about 1.6 million Latina voters, and for every Latina voter that's registered, there's a potential of someone else being registered. So, ask your friend, ask your neighbor is a great way. But the fact of the matter is, with nonprofits like Hope and other nonprofits that are looking at this, why aren't we having, reaching a larger percentage of our population registered to vote and then voting? It's all about the mobilization and the motivating factors. And what I mean by that is oftentimes politicians don't speak to our communities. And oftentimes our communities feel left behind in some of these discussions when it comes to the state budget or healthcare reform or education reform. We need to switch that. We cannot be dependent on the elected to come to us. We have to become the elected, or we have to come to them. And so I think there needs to be somewhat of a change in our culture, if you will, about embracing our own individual power, which we have and we've been seeing. So I think that's one great step. At the end of the day, we have to be accountable to get people out to vote, and individuals need to do that.
Well, that's great. And again, it's so important what you're doing. It's a great organization. We're happy to be a partner with you. We appreciate you letting us be involved. And we know that the good work you do is going to live on a long, long time because of the seeds you've planted, the 400 people so far and more to come. So again, we thank you very much for all you're doing and all your group's doing. And we'll be right back after this.
Great. Thank you.